Back in the early 2000s, when I was in school, I was a good kid. I only got A's and B's and never got into trouble. That is except for one time in middle school. I honestly can't remember what it was, but I was given a harsh punishment. I was given after-school detention. I told my mom about it multiple times because I was going to need her to pick me up. 4 p.m. is when she got off of work, and that's exactly when my detention was over. Should have worked out perfectly. But no, she was a very selfish, forgetful person, probably why we don't speak much today. 4:30 rolls by, and she hasn't shown up. I figured maybe she forgot, but once she got home, she will notice that I'm not there, and then she'll remember. But now it's 5:15, and I'm getting pretty angry. All the teachers are gone, and the office is closed. I can't even use a phone to call her. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. At 5:30, it's just me, cold, alone, and getting dark, sitting in front of the steps of the school. I suddenly see a car pull up. I get excited for a second because it's the same color as my mom's. But as it gets closer, I see that it's not her. But the car slowly pulls up in front of me and rolls down the passenger window. Driving was a skinny middle-aged man, and in the passenger seat was an overweight woman with pockmarks on her face, smoking a cigarette. The lady says to me before coughing up a lung, "What are you doing all alone in the cold? You want us to give you a ride?" "Oh, no thanks. My mom's gonna show up in any minute now." The hag looks over at the driver as they whisper something to each other. She then says to me in a raspy voice, "Let us know if you change your mind," rolls her window back up and slowly drives away. I thought that was an odd thing to say, but they didn't leave. They parked in the lot of the school about 50 yards away from me. Okay, now my mom really needs to show up, I thought. Another 20 minutes goes by, and I'm starting to think that I need to take matters into my own hands. My house was about 6 miles away, but I figured if I took most of the side streets, it would be about 5. I could probably make it in less than an hour, even with my backpack. I still didn't know what this car was still doing there and what they wanted, but I definitely wasn't going to ask Tweaker 1 and Tweaker 2 for help, so I headed out with a nice steady jog. Once I hit the street, I could hear the car from before start to move. The engine was loud. I didn't need to look back to know that I was being followed. I felt like I needed a change of plans. If they were really after me, they were sure to do something before I make it home. About a half a mile in, I could sense that they were right on my tail. I'm running along on a long, quiet stretch of road with multiple side streets on my right side. Right then, I realized what to do. I can't believe I didn't think of it before. I was now close to a local pizza shop. I should have gone there 2 hours ago, at least to get warm. Once I passed the side street, the car passed it as well. I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and sprinted down the other street. As doing so, I hear tires screeching, followed by the same raspy voice, "Where do you think you're going?" I booked it into another gear. The pizza shop was all the way down the street, and I wasn't going to make it there without them seeing me. So I ducked under the front of a parked car and waited for them to go by. They came driving by, but not fast. They were creeping along as if they knew I was hiding somewhere. Slowly, the loud engine drives past me. I don't move until it's completely quiet. Then I slowly get out from under the car and slowly walk to the pizza shop while crouching down to avoid being seen. Once I get inside the shop, my heart feels like it's done 3 years of beats all within a 10-minute span. Despite it being cold, I was dripping in sweat. I looked around the shop, making sure the two weren't inside, and thank God they weren't. I asked to use the shop's phone. I called home first, but no answer. I then called my mom's cell, and she answered, saying she was out with friends having a drink this whole time. She completely forgot that I needed to be picked up. That was honestly one of the most pissed off moments of my life. Because of her, I had to go through all of that. She eventually arrived at the pizza shop to take me home. I didn't speak a word to her. I was too angry. I never even told her about this incident. When I was 9 years old, I was riding the school bus on my way home talking with my really good friend Sierra, and she said that I should come over to her house to swim. Sierra had a really nice pool, including a water slide. I've been over there a few times, but never had a chance to enjoy the pool yet. I told her that I just needed to go home to ask my mom for permission first, and I'll be right over. We only lived a half a mile apart, so it was a really easy walk for me. Once my mom said yes, I grabbed my swimsuit and rushed over to her house. The person that greeted me at the front door was Sierra's mom's boyfriend. I had never met him before. There had only been 2 other boyfriends that I knew of, and all of them stayed at the house and watched Sierra while her mom was at work. I thought it was an odd arrangement, especially with this new guy. The deep dark circles around his eyes looked like eyeshadow. He tells me that Sierra is already in the pool and that I can change into my swimsuit in her room. He walked me there even though I already knew where it was. When I closed the door, he just stood there on the other side. He didn't leave. I changed clothes as quickly as I could, trying to only be naked for the shortest time possible. In less than a minute, I was ready to go. I opened the door, and this guy hadn't moved an inch, like he was waiting for me. My confused look didn't deter him from saying, "You look amazing." I felt like I needed to get into the pool to wash off that disgusting feeling he gave me. Once I got into the pool with Sierra, I forgot all about it. We had a great time. It's always nice to have a friend with a pool. There were a few times that I looked over and I could see the boyfriend looking at us through the kitchen window. It was a little creepy, but he kept his distance and left us alone. Later, the sun was about to set and I knew I needed to get home. I said my goodbyes to Sierra while she stayed in the pool. I really wanted to change into my street clothes so I wouldn't be freezing on my walk home. I didn't see the boyfriend around, so I quietly went into Sierra's room to change. As I passed one of the other rooms, I saw the boyfriend in the corner of my eye. I began to feel anxious as my steps quickened. I rushed into Sierra's room and closed the door. I went to lock it, but there was no lock. Next, for some reason, without even thinking, like my brain was on autopilot, I hid in Sierra's closet. I shut the sliding door and stood completely still. My plan was to stay here for a couple minutes to see if he was following me. 30 seconds of hiding, and I hear the door open. I try to stop breathing altogether, hoping he doesn't hear me. Now I hear him walking. With the closet being completely closed, I can't see what's going on. I can only listen. Then I hear the footsteps leave. I think he left, but couldn't be sure. I had to open the door to find out, and I better be right. I slowly opened it, and no one was there. Forget changing clothes at this point. I'll run home in my bathing suit. I quickly leave Sierra's room, and once I get in the hallway, I see him standing outside the slightly cracked bathroom door. He must have thought I was changing in there this time. He turned towards me with a stunned look, thinking I wasn't in Sierra's room after he searched it. As I start to run by him, he says with a grin, "There you are." I got out of there as fast as I could. Halfway home, I stopped running and calmed myself down. Like, did that really just happen? What a weirdo. I told Sierra about it the next day on the bus. She said that she sometimes feels that her mom's boyfriend is watching her too. She later told her mom that he makes her feel uncomfortable, and to her credit, her mom broke up with him. I sometimes think about what would have happened if I didn't hide in the closet that day. Maybe nothing, or maybe something that would completely change my life forever. At some point in the late 90s, I was in the 5th grade and my little brother Mark was in the 1st. We were attending the same elementary school and would always ride our bikes together to school in the morning and back home in the afternoon. But in the fall of that year, I signed up for my first year of football. Practice always began right after school 3 days a week, so I wasn't able to ride home with Mark on those days. We only lived a mile and a half from the school, so getting home by himself wasn't a big deal. but it was only later that we discovered that getting home wasn't the thing that we should worry about. You see, our parents had gotten divorced that summer, so it was just us two and our mom in the house. And she didn't get home from work until 5:15, so it was me and Mark alone at home for roughly 2 hours. It was never an issue before, but now since I was at football, it was just Mark alone for those 2 hours. I know, a 6-year-old home alone for 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, times sure have changed. The rule was that he had to call my mom at work as soon as he got home to check in and let her know that everything was okay. Halfway through my football season, the arrangement seemed to be working out. That is until one day, while riding my bike home with all my football gear on, there were 3 to 4 police cars at my house. I was almost too scared to go inside, thinking about all the bad things that could happen leaving a 6-year-old by themselves. But as I walked in, I saw my mom and Mark both crying. They were distraught, but okay. It turns out this is what happened. Mark got home and called our mom as usual. They spoke for a few minutes, talking about school, and his favorite cartoon was almost on. Once they hung up the phone, Mark sat down in front of the TV. That's when there was a knock at the door. Mark opened the door and saw that it was John. John lived on the same street as us, about 4 houses down. He was definitely a strange guy. He had a thick mustache, always wore an Indiana Jones type hat, along with dark sunglasses. All the kids knew who he was because during the summer, every night at sunset, he would set up an archery board in front of his house and would be standing in the middle of the street, giving him good enough distance for target practice. We would all stop and watch him for a couple minutes. Seeing professional type bow and arrows was kind of fascinating. But John had never been to our house before, so Mark was confused why he was there. John says, "Your mom asked me to come fix the toilet in her bathroom." Really? "Yes, can I come in?" Okay. John then goes directly upstairs into my mom's room. From what I remember later, Mark told police that he didn't bring any tools or parts. Mark wondered why our mom hadn't told him about John coming over, so he picked up the phone to ask her.
Hello?
"Why didn't you tell me that John was coming over to fix the toilet?"
What are you talking about?
"He's upstairs right now, fixing the toilet."
The toilet is fine. What is he doing in the house?
John must have heard Mark talking to my mom, because he sprints down the stairs and runs out of the house. "John just left, he ran away."
Lock the door. I'm coming home right now.
Our mom got home as fast as she could, and was relieved to see Mark perfectly fine in one piece. She was in a panic, asking him exactly what happened. But it was pretty straightforward. 1 minute after entering the house, John exited in a hurry. My guess is because he could hear that Mark was on the phone. Once our mom called police, they went over to John's house to ask him what he was doing. John's statement was that Mark said that the toilet was broke and asked John to come over to fix it. This completely freaked my mom out. This was obviously a lie that John made up to give police an excuse to why he was in the house in the first place. But why did John want to get in the house? What was his plan? Whatever it was, he didn't have enough time to do it. All because Mark decided to alert our mom. Police had a he said case, and since there were no items missing or damages in the house, no charges were brought. John didn't stick around much longer after that day. He became the neighborhood pariah and ended up selling his house. I don't know where he went, but we never saw him again. My dad was extremely pissed when he heard about this, so he made it a point to always pick us up at school and watch us until our mom got home. Looking back, it was kind of crazy to leave kids that young home alone. If that happened today, I'm sure it would be my mom that gets arrested.